So the travelling to Alfreton was tough. I take it you weren't nipping up to Scotland every other day, were you?
No, I wasn't. So I moved up. So it's quite funny. I was living with a lad, Cameron Salkeld, who's still at Greenock. He was a Geordie lad, and we both signed on the same day. And his agent messaged me on LinkedIn and said, "Oh, Cammy's just signed, blah blah blah." And I said to him, "Look, give me his number." I said, "We'll drop a message." I said, "We'll look to move in somewhere together." So me and him, we got a flat just outside Greenock, right on the front. It was a lovely place, to be fair. We lived just above an ice cream shop. Good ice cream. So yeah, we were full time up there, obviously in the Scottish Championship, and it was good. It was good. I enjoyed it. It was a tough year. It was a battling year. There was a lot going on again off the pitch, as well as on it, and yeah, I enjoyed my time up there. It was strange again being away from home. I was obviously 4 hours in the car from my parents and stuff like that, but I enjoyed it. It was again a sense of like living on your own and things like that.
Decent. And so were you brought in again as number 2 there, or was there a chance to?
I went in initially as obviously number 1. Feel as though obviously I played every minute of pre-season, every minute of the Betfred Cup, played the first 2 league games. Our number 2 then got injured. He'd done his ankle ligaments and he was going to be out for an extended period of time. So the club looked at trying to replace him. And then we ended up bringing in Danny Rogers from Aberdeen on loan. And I looked at it at the time and I was like, Danny was a year older than me. I think he played probably about 180 games in and around Scotland. He'd obviously been away with the Irish national team, underages and things like that. And I was like, as a player, you kind of get a sense of, I know what's coming here. I know I can smell it in the air. So I knew from that point. I was like, I'm not going to play, and I was obviously disappointed in that because I was thinking I was starting to hit a little bit of consistency in my form. I think we played Alloa at home first day of the season and we'd won. We were due to play Hibs in the cup, in the Betfred Cup, and I was thinking, oh, it's going to be a great game. Like,
I was going to say, did you end up playing any Premier League teams in the Betfred Cup? Did you manage to get against one?
No, we got knocked out against Hibs, and I didn't play. That was the first game Danny had come in, and Danny obviously played it, which was a little bit disappointing because he'd obviously been in training a couple of days, and I'd thought I've been starting to hit a little bit of decent form, and that was that really. I came out the team then for 5 games, came back in the team for 5 games, and then got taken back out the team again. And it was a bit like I felt as though I didn't have that little bit of a run where here's 10, 12 games, go and express what you can. And it's that thing as a keeper, you need that consistent backing. Don't get me wrong, if I was throwing goals in every 2-3 games, like, and I was throwing 2-3 goals in or whatever, I would have been like, okay, I deserve to be taken out.
Yeah.
But I was like, you know what, the team as a whole, we weren't performing great. We were conceding goals. And I was like, you know what, I feel as though I'm starting to put in some decent performances. My shot save ratio was quite high, and I was like, you know what, I'm actually making some stops in games, like are doing well. I feel as though I'm participating in the team and trying to drag us back up the league. And the gaffer pulled me and said, "Look, I'm going to play Danny," and I was a bit like, I think 2 or 3 more games, and I'd hit a great stride of form. But sometimes you just don't get that.
Did you say that to the manager? Were you like, did you kick up a fuss, or were you like, oh, fair enough? Like,
I'd had meetings with him to discuss it, and obviously because I was disappointed I wasn't playing. At first, he told me that it was a little bit to protect me because we weren't playing as well as we could as a team. But as a player, you don't want to be protected; you want to be playing every single game of every single minute. And then the second time he kind of took me out the team, I was a little bit more annoyed because I didn't think I'd done anything to warrant to be taken out the team. Which kind of, I still obviously put my 100% into everything I was doing. I was still doing my extras. I was still doing extra shooting every day, extra kicking and things like that. And sometimes you just feel as though you don't get the rub of the green. And it was what it was. In hindsight, there was probably moments where I could have covered myself in more glory and done a little bit more, like performance-wise in games. There was mistakes I've made, which I haven't made in my career so far. It's probably the only time I've done it in my career. And I'm thinking, so sometimes you just don't get that little bit of luck that you need. but still, I still put max. I don't know whether that conveyed to obviously the Morton fans, but I know I still put my 100% into everything I was doing. So sometimes you're just a bit like, it just wasn't to be.
Yeah. Do you feel that as a goalkeeper, obviously it's completely different to any other position on the pitch, isn't it? If you're a number two as a goalkeeper, you don't really have much rotation, do you, throughout the season? Maybe the odd cup game here and there. And even when you went in as number one, the backup to you got injured. If that was any other position on the pitch, you might not even bring in someone on loan. You might just get someone to fill that space. And it so happened that your backup got injured, and it led to you losing your place. You feel like it is just a tough position being a goalkeeper. It's hard to stay in a bit of running.
Yeah, it's definitely probably one of the toughest, if not the toughest positions. Like you think that Brendan, who was the number two at Greenock, he was obviously the same age as me. We were both competing head to head for it, and I knew that going in. Obviously, I was backing myself a little bit more to think that I can take the spot. And the gaffer obviously played me in the first pre-season game, and then he got injured not long afterwards. I think it was the next day or a couple of days later, and it was a bit like, right, now where do we go from here? And there was a couple of people who'd come in on trial and things like that. I don't think the club were too keen on them, and then obviously they brought Danny in, and you kind of think you can just smell it as a player. Like people kind of know that it's like you bring in somebody. It'd be different if there was a 19-year-old brought in from a different club, but bringing in like a 25, 26-year-old who's been around the block and played, it's kind of a bit like you can see what's coming. Which again, obviously, I put up the fight. I said, obviously, I put up as much as I could to try and keep my place in the team and keep my standing. Trained like a man possessed, but it was what it was.
Yeah, annoying. So end of the season, like obviously, did COVID affect things at Greenock Morton? Was there a chance to stay on with obviously Danny Rogers going back on loan? Like, would you have established yourself as number one again? What happened?
So obviously we were due to play Dundee at home, and we got the phone call to say, look, the league's been like the games were off this weekend because of obviously coronavirus, and at the time we didn't know how really serious it was. We all just kind of thought, oh, it's a bit of an overreaction. They're probably just the league will be fine next week. So I think me and myself and a couple of lads ended up going out, and then we came back in on the Monday, and we were told, look, you need to go home for 3 days, 4 days, or we're giving you the week off, basically. So we were like, sound. So I drove home, left all my stuff up in Greenock, thought, it's not to be worried about. I'll be back. I'll be back Friday, or I think it was coming. Yeah, I think it was coming back up the Friday. I was like, I'll be back up Friday. And like we then, I was there. I came back. I did come back up on the Friday to see my now new girlfriend. And then we went back in and trained on the Monday. And then we were told then, look, we need to get back home because there's going to be a lockdown and things like that. And all of a sudden the country was shut down, and we were like, right, okay. We were given programs to stay fit. We put on obviously furlough like a lot of people were. And then obviously after 3 weeks, there was then, look, the season's finished up here. And we'd all been told before, probably just after January, we were like, they'd said to us, look, everybody's going to be offered a new contract. I want everybody to stay for next year. This was obviously the manager speaking. So look, he said, money will probably be the same. He said, but I want to offer everyone new contracts and obviously kick on for next year to try and push for a playoff place. And I was like, okay. I was thinking, you know what? I'll come back in pre-season, right as rain, fit as a fiddle, and smash it and try and claim the spot as my own. That was obviously back in March last year, the end of March, probably start of April.
Yeah.
When obviously the lockdown was still in full flow. So we were waiting, we were still on furlough, waiting. And then I think it come to probably end of July, maybe? Start of August, yeah. No, end of July it was probably. I got a phone call from Hoppy, and he just kind of said, look, he said the budget's been cut. He said obviously the club's been moved over to a different owner. They were like, look, there's no budget here. He said, I'm looking at offering lads not great money. He said, I'm going to have to bring lads in who are closer. He said, obviously it's just unfortunate. He said, I can't offer you something that you're financially going to be able to live and be able to live on up here. He said it's unfortunate for you. He said, but the way COVID's affected everything, he was like, I can't do anything more. So I was a bit obviously gutted. But again,
you've
a lot of
happily
people.
stayed on. Did you enjoy your first year? Would you take another contract?
I'd have snapped the hand off for another contract. I thought, you know what, first year probably wasn't great. It wasn't probably the best that I could have done. I thought, you know what, I've put a lot of issues. I'd obviously lost my granddad the year before, I then lost my auntie, and obviously while I was up there, I'd lost my auntie on the Friday night and gone and played on the Saturday while I was up at Greenock. Like there was a lot of things that had gone on that people don't really know about, and I was like, you know what, I'll come in and just go for it head first and see where it takes me for another year. Had the opportunity been there, and unfortunately it wasn't, and I paid the consequences for probably. You never know, if I'd have performed better, there might have been another contract there, but you just don't know. Obviously, I do believe that there probably has been a massive budget cut across the board at a lot of clubs. So, especially as a keeper, there's only probably one. There's probably three maximum of keepers that the clubs bring in. You're probably lucky now if you've got three keepers in your squad. Yeah. And it is what it is. Everything has its kind of knock-on effects. I know a lot of boys who are obviously still out of contract and things like that. So it's a difficult time.
So yeah, to go on, describe life as a footballer during lockdown, during this whole pandemic. What's it been like?
It's been difficult. So obviously we finished middle of March or whenever it was, just before the first lockdown. I was lucky. I had a close group of mates who we were all sending sessions to one another and keeping fit. And I was lucky at the time. My brother was looking at losing some weight, so me and him built a gym in the garage, and I was being asked to labour for my dad. So we were doing renovations in the garden. So we were building gazebos and patios and pathways and all that. So I was probably still. I was still probably grafting for about 7-8 hours a day with my dad in the baking heat. So I was doing that to obviously keep myself tired over, especially mentally as well, because otherwise if I'm bored, my mind ends up wandering. And then as I kind of thought that the season's going to start get going again, obviously Hoppy phoned me and said there was not a contract there for me. So I'd started putting the feelers out probably 6 weeks before the start of pre-season. I'd had an interesting offer to go over to Armenia and play over there. And it was probably great money. It was great money. And I was like, I just don't think I'd be able to make it back from there. I was like, still, my career is the most important thing to me. I need to make the right moves for my career to give myself the right opportunities. I was like, if I go there,
that's a bit of a random one, isn't it? Armenia with
an agent had messaged me and said, look, they're interested in you. They want to take a look. You need to fly to Amsterdam, and then they'll pay for the flight on from Amsterdam into Armenia. So I think I'd have to fly from Amsterdam to Turkey to Russia into Armenia or something like that. It was about 16 hours of flying to get myself to Armenia because there was no direct flights. So yeah, and then I'd been keeping myself fit and ticking over, and I kind of thought I've not had a little bit of a break. So I think I took 2 weeks off of just doing nothing and just as you normally would do. When the season finishes and the summer hits, you kind of do take a week or 10 days off and just enjoy yourself a little bit. So I'd done that. And I was like, right, it's time to have a right good go at getting fit. So I'd spoke to obviously agents, and I hadn't actually signed with an agent at this point. I'd been speaking to a couple of people, and then next minute it was actually Danny Rogers who phoned me and said, Falkirk have been on the phone asking about the Falkirk keeper coach has Jacko. So he was like, look, here's his number, give him a ring. And it was lucky at the time I was up with my missus. She lives in Livingston in Scotland. So Falkirk was half an hour around the corner from her. And he was like, look, come in. He said, obviously, we've got to abide by all the COVID rules and all this, which was, I think you can only have 10 players on each half the pitch or something like that. So there wasn't too much mixing. And he said, we've got games in like 3 weeks' time. He said, so we'd be asking you to play in that. So luckily, she allowed me to stay with her and her family. To obviously pursue it and try and gain a contract. And they'd said to me, look, we ideally wanted 3 keepers, and then they said, look, we're only going to be able to have 2 keepers. So they'd obviously had their keeper, who was Robbie Much, who's a good keeper, nice lad as well. And then they pulled me. I think we played Wraith away in a friendly, and they said, look, we haven't got the budget that we could offer you something again that you could live on. He said, we're going to have to bring in a loan. He said, we've not wasted your time. He said, we've only found out about this the last 2 days. And I was like, I was expecting to having to take a pay cut from Morton, but to the point that I could still be sustainable and still make a career of it. And sometimes a little bit different. Had I been going in as a number one, I could have took the massive wage hit in order to give myself an opportunity to go and then progress and move on. But it's something that I would have been able to actually live on. I would have took the opportunity. So then I'd come back from there, and quite luckily had a phone call from my agent who's now representing me, and he said, "Look, there's an opportunity for you to go out to Germany." This was now October. He was like, "Would you be interested?" He said, "They're a team in the Oberliga." It's like, "Look, they went bankrupt last year." He said they've had to drop right out the leagues. He said they've gone down to the 5th division. He said, but they're wanting 3 promotions in the next 4 years. He said, you're getting yourself in at the ground level for something. He was like, "Would you be interested?" So I was like, "Yeah." I said, "Look," I said, I'll get myself. I was obviously at my missus. I was like, "Look, I'll drive home." I said, "I'll book a flight for Monday and get myself out there." So I went over there, spent 2 weeks over there. They told me they wanted to offer me a contract, but they knew that their lockdown was coming the 1st of November. So they're like, "Look, we can't offer you a deal and then pay you for the next 2 months when we're not probably going to be here." They're saying the lockdown's only for 3 weeks, but we really know. Because I took all my clothes over with me because I was thinking, right, I'm going, and so I ended up missing about 7 trains to fly back from Germany. And yeah, ever since it's kind of been right to try and stay fit. Obviously, then you've got Christmas coming, and you think, right, I've got to pick up a job somewhere. So I was doing some Amazon Flex deliveries to try and bring myself in a little bit of money, because obviously you want to get the people closest to you to presents for Christmas, and have a little bit of money to do a few things, a few activities with the family and obviously my girlfriend and things like that. So it's been a rough ride. It's probably been the most emotionally taxing of my career. Like, I thought that I would kind of be okay. I kind of leaving Scotland, and obviously having played in a few games in the conference, a lot in the Conference North and Scottish Championship, I kind of thought I'll be okay. I'll pick something up somewhere. And just you don't realise how bad it's going to be. In hindsight, when you look at it, would I have took the Armenia deal if I knew what I knew now? Probably yes. But that was probably the first offer I'd had, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to sit and I'm going to wait.
Yeah.
Because a lot of clubs hadn't gone back, and I was like, when the chips are down, I always back myself. And I was like, you know what, if a club comes in to say come in on trial, I know I'll be all right. It's just getting that little opportunity to put myself in the shop window to go, yeah, take a look at me. And it's been hard. You get agents messaging you, and you get people messaging you saying, I can get you this, I can get you this. But when the chips are down, a lot of people are just all talk, and it's quite hard work trying to weed out who's actually finding you a serious offer. And it's hard work, but it's like there comes a point where you've got to, like, obviously I'm a past income protection advisor. I've been working on that for the last 3 months to provide lads who are obviously part-time and full-time footballers some life insurance and critical illness insurance, because it's a lot of stuff that players don't have. I know I certainly didn't play in part-time. I was lucky I wasn't working while I was playing part-time. I just kind of committed to playing football. But I know lads certainly aren't, and if they're to get injured and have to miss work for a long period, that they're not covered and they're losing their income, especially in a time like now. So that was why I kind of picked that up, because I could do it alongside playing. And now I'm obviously applying for university as well to give myself a little bit in the future, so I can look at possibly when my career ends going into doing something.
Decent. So going back to Germany, what's the name of the club? Like, whereabouts are they based in Germany?
The base just outside Leipzig. I can't say anything because it's not actually signed yet. Okay. The contract should be over in the next. I've applied for my visa. My visa should be here should be arriving on Wednesday. So, because obviously now we're out of the EU, I've got to apply for a visa to work in Europe.
Nightmare, isn't it?
So yeah, it should be. It's ridiculous. So it should be all signed and done before the end of the window. Which would be it takes a lot of stress off my mind, because it's going to be 18 months of, at least I know where I'm going to be for the next 18 months. Huh? Obviously, hopefully we kick on, and I think we're 4th at the minute in the table. I think we're joint with the teams above us. I think we played one extra game than the teams above us. but we're pushing to go up, and the squad's actually a really good squad. Obviously, it's a little bit different because everybody's speaking German, and I'm just looking around going, "What's kind of going on?" But I've started a couple of, one of my old school teachers is helping me out learning German, so he's been a great help for me. So I'm penciling a lesson for the weekend again. So I'm spinning about 5 plates at once at the minute with obviously keeping fit, applying for uni and doing a few other bits and bobs.
Good for you. So we will.
Which how's learning German?
Yeah, that's not a language I've got any expertise in, but I'm sure you'll pick it up quick enough. Will you be going in as first choice then, there? Or?
Yeah. So the gaffer's a Croatian guy who he's managed all over the world. He's managed in China, Saudi, Abu Dhabi. He's managed all around, and knows his stuff like so. And the club wants to push to get up as quickly as they can. They were a 3rd league team, which is obviously just outside. It's obviously the Bundesliga 2, and then there's the 3rd league. So they were in that league for years and competing in that league. So they want to get back to that as quickly as they can. It's a 14,000 seater stadium I'll be playing in, and I was lucky enough while I was there. I got to watch a game, and they were getting 4,000 in for an Oberliga side. There's teams you'll go to which will be like when you're playing in the Conference North, and you go into teams that get 250, 300 fans, and there was all ultras sitting in our stands, and you're thinking, Christ, like. They were really passionate about it, and you're thinking, you know what, I'm going to enjoy playing here a little bit.
Germany's class for football, isn't it? I've been to a few games. I've been to like St. Pauli and stuff, and the drinking in the stands, and they were 2nd division. Yeah. Actually played Leipzig at the time, and it's class like that. Germany get football spot on. You'll definitely enjoy it over there. It should be decent. So it'll be with your career, have you always had an agent who's helped sort you out? Have you sorted deals out yourself? Have you just worked with people who you know, or how's it worked out for you?
So I've kind of had an agent when I was 17. I think I signed with an agent. Me and him then we just kind of parted ways pretty amicably, really. And then his number 2, who was at that agency, got another job. So the deal I'd done in Ireland, I'd done that myself, obviously through my friend and that. He sorted me and him kind of done that together. And then when I came back, the guy who'd been my first agent's number 2, he'd gone to a different company, so I signed with him. And he looked after me up until I went to Greenock. For 2.5 years, something like that. And then so this summer, when obviously I'd been released by Greenock, I'd kind of spoke to a few people, just kind of said, look, if you can get me something, I'll sign with you and we'll do a deal like that. And a lot of agents are tending to work like that now. I've found a couple of them will say, look, I need you to sign. If they're looking abroad, they'll say, look, I need you to sign a mandate, which is for a month, to say, look, I'm looking for you in Finland. Or if somebody says they've got a contract in Romania or Azerbaijan or whatever, they've got your details for a month, basically, to do as much as they can. But then I signed with Kev Scott at 433 Management. So he's kind of done for the past, since I was probably released from Morton, he's kind of looked after me. Probably from when I was in at Falkirk, he kind of looked after me from then onwards, because things were looking a little bit slow, and I was like, look, I need one dedicated person to just be focusing on me. So I went with him. And to be fair, he's looked after me great. Like I can't complain. I know it's rough going for everybody at the minute. But he's happy to, obviously, if there's other people who've got deals, he's happy to work with them. He's not somebody who goes, no, you're my player. It's my deal. I'm doing it all on myself. He's happy to work with other people. So if somebody was to say to me, look, there's a contract here, like obviously you're looked after by somebody, I'd obviously tell them, yeah, I'm looked after with Kev, but he's happy to do deals with people to enable his players to get the best that they can and obviously push on. So it's hard sometimes because you don't know who to trust, who's talking rubbish and things like that. So it's I always think you struggle to find a dolphin in a sea full of sharks. That's the way I deal with people sometimes, because you don't know who to trust. So
it is a tough industry, obviously.
It is what it is. It's
dipping my toe into it a bit, like on the periphery of all the agents and stuff. You want to make sure they're in it for you, not just for their own benefits. And it's hard to believe certain people, and we've tried to help people get themselves out there. And I work with a company called Pro Player Pathways. They enroll people in university, like with an online course and stuff, and then try and set up deals abroad and stuff. You work with all sorts of people, but I think you automatically think, is this guy dodgy? Like you want to do like your background research on them and stuff. And like I think it's a tough industry, and a lot of players from a young age coming out of academies, like they promise certain things and then they're just empty promises. So it is definitely tough to put your trust in.
Especially as well, like me, and I've known of Kev Scott for a while, and I've known of a couple of other agents, but obviously with Corona and that, I'm not able to meet him face to face. It's always a little bit easier to trust somebody when you're speaking to them face to face. But I trust Kev absolutely with my career and things like that, and I'm hoping that we've obviously got a long and successful relationship, and hopefully he can make me some money and I can make him some money off the back of obviously what's to come. But it is always difficult. I think that there's obviously you push yourself out there on LinkedIn and you speak to XYZ amount of people, and you push yourself out there on any platform you've got, and you just kind of think like, is this guy for real? Is he being serious? Am I going to end up in a country where I'm not getting paid? And because I've spoken to people and you can tell from the minute one that they're dodgy, and you're like, you just kind of you learn as you go along, but it's just you've always got to make the decision that's right for you. Like you can be pressured from different sources and things like that, but you've always got to make the decision that's kind of right for you and what you think's right.
Yeah. Do you think for players of a certain level or free agents, social media is a bit of a future for footballers putting themselves out there and trying to find deals? Do you reckon it, like on LinkedIn especially and Twitter and stuff, do you think it is the right angle to go at it?
I think especially LinkedIn, because I joined LinkedIn when I come back from Galway, and I joined it then, and it wasn't too big for players, and it seemed to be like it was just a little bit, just bubbling under the surface, a little bit of lads looking for clubs on LinkedIn and coaches and agents and managers being on it. But I think now it's like it's exploded. Like I flick through the feed every day and I see. And sometimes you take it with a pinch of salt, and especially when you're dealing with foreign agents, especially like in England, and I see it all the time in England. Transfer markets like isn't a big thing. Obviously, the website it's like a player database, and you see it all the time. And you see agents saying, "I need a player with a transfer market of 250,000." I could go on my transfer market now and edit it and put it up to 2.5 million if I wanted to. And you just kind of think, is that a serious offer? And I've spoke to agents, God, in the past month, 6 weeks, because obviously I know Kev's happy to do deals with people, and sent them a transfer market and said, it's not a big thing in England. Like I've never heard a League One club say, "Oh, I need a transfer market of 1.25 million." Like it doesn't really happen. And I've had agents reply to me say, "I need someone better." And I'm like, well, hold on a minute. You've not even looked at my clips.
Yeah, you can't
you've clicked on, and my transfer market especially, it doesn't have the fact that I've nearly played 95 something games, like senior games. And it's like, you can't trust something that's not got every single accurate detail. To be fair, if there was a massive like transfer website where you had every single game that every single player's played, then it's something a little bit more legit. But when you're saying, I need somebody's transfer market, you're a little bit like, is it a serious deal you're offering? And I think probably, I like to think the best of people. So I like to think that most of the deals that you do see are legit, but you sometimes do take it with a pinch of salt.
Yeah, no, I understand, but it's definitely changing. It's interesting getting involved in that aspect myself, and a lot of footballers are putting themselves out there on LinkedIn, and hopefully it does look good. So yeah, looking back at your career so far, what would you consider to be your highlight? Anything that sticks out for you, a particular game or moment that you look back on?
I have a couple. So probably my first highlight would be obviously making my debut for Macclesfield Town, coming on it obviously Leyton Orient and doing quite well.
Do you have anyone
highlights with that?
for your debut? Sorry, because obviously you weren't expecting to make it.
No,
your family or anything like that.
no. So we played them. We were away, so obviously we travelled down to London on the day. We've been up since God. We used to travel. We used to do a lot of London trips on the day. We used to get the train down. So I think we'd left Macclesfield about 7:30 in the morning, 8 o'clock in the morning to get the train down for a 3 o'clock kickoff. And it just so happened that it obviously came on, and my mum had got a text saying Sam's come on. So they were constantly flicking. My mum, my dad, and my brother were all flicking through the Twitter feed trying to get the next update, next update. So no, they never. And then I played again on the Tuesday night. And nobody was, again, we were down in London, so nobody was able to come and watch. They got to one of my games. I played Halifax over the New Year, and they got to come to that, and played Solihull as well. They got to come to a couple of games, which was nice, obviously. And my mum used to, when I was at Alpha, and she used to come to every home game because she used to not work Saturdays, so she used to come to every home game, which was nice. It's always fun to have someone to talk to in the car.
Yeah.
Always fun to have someone to talk to, especially for 2.5 hours. It was a long trip.
Yeah.
Another highlight would definitely be we played Motherwell on telly in the Betfred Cup. That was on BT Sport. That was amazing because I remember just coming out and standing in the tunnel thinking, this is live on telly. Yeah. A lot of people are going to be watching this. I was like, Christ, this is a big moment. Yeah. And I feel as though I acquitted myself quite well in the game. I think we got beat 4-1 or 4-0 maybe, but felt as though they were a good side that year. Motherwell, they were doing really well, or they went on to do really well. Sorry, and yeah, and then obviously I played Dundee as well on Scottish TV on BBC Alba, and that was another highlight probably for me. So yeah, had a couple.
When you're on TV, every save you make, like they sort of call them, that's one for the cameras and stuff like that. Everything you do, are you thinking, I wonder how that was seen on TV? I wonder if they'd be showing replays at that. Are you thinking that all the whole time, or do you try?
I'm more thinking how awkward do I look on telly? I'm more thinking, do I look like I'm moving like a robot? Do I look like I'm moving quick? Like that's what I'm more thinking, because I hate watching myself. Like it's one of my pet peeves, watching myself back and listening to myself. Like I probably won't even listen to this interview. Like
I'm looking at myself.
I hate watching myself. Because I me and my brother were doing my clips over the summer, and I was watching them and I was going, is that how I really look? I was like, Christ. But it's I'm more thinking, do I just look as awkward as I feel?
Yeah.
But no, not really. It kind of, especially after the first 5-10 minutes, it kind of goes out your head and it just becomes a normal game.
Yeah.
But definitely it's a strange feeling.
Very well. So hope there's a few more to come for you. So last question. Growing up as a kid, did you have any like idols of the goalkeepers that you looked up to, that you modelled your style of play on? Or?
Probably my biggest idol growing up was probably Iker Casillas. He was the goalkeeper I wanted to be. I used to watch him on YouTube, and any clip I could find, I used to sit there and watch it over and over and over again. He was probably one of my all-time favourite keepers. Obviously, as I've then become a little bit older and things like that, people like Jan Oblak and Manuel Neuer and people like that, and Ter Stegen and things like that. Probably I had more, other than my feet ability, I'd probably think my shot stopping's a little bit, probably I've tried to model myself a little bit off Neuer, because he's kind of the type that just makes the block. He just makes the save how the save needs to be made. He's not, you wouldn't go and say, oh, he's technically the perfect goalkeeper, because there's times he'll punch stuff, he'll use his shoulder, he'll use his knee, he'll use his head to save it. Like that's probably the style of play that I look like more than somebody, say, like a Ter Stegen who's brilliant with his feet, or a Navas who can spray a ball 90 yards to someone's toe. I'm more the type that will, and to be fair, I'd rather be a goalkeeper that keeps the ball out the net than somebody who sprays it about for fun, because I think that your bread and butter is keeping the ball out the net.
That's what matters at the end of the day, isn't it?
It's enjoying the stuff of getting dirty and enjoying rolling around in the mud.
Yeah.
That's the reason why I started it.
Yeah, fair enough. Brilliant. Well, yeah, thanks a lot for your time on this. Obviously, good luck with in Germany. Give us a shout when that goes through. We'll make a big deal of it on the page, and then we'll catch up after a few months in Germany. Obviously, get your see what's happening over there, how things are different. It'll be good to get your opinion on everything over there.
Sounds good.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I'll keep you updated when we publish this, and keep in touch.
No worries. Okay, go. Speak to you soon.
You too. See you, mate.
Nice one, mate. Bye-bye.